Humanity Matters.
Welcome back here to the Fog of War and Humanity on hmTV. I'm your host, Rich Acritelli. I'm here with Gary Glick for our third episode. We've had a very spirited conversation on the importance of local and national history and really the need to always remember it. We were speaking about the Holocaust. We were speaking about local survivors. We were speaking about Rubin, who, right, am I saying his name correctly,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
2.5 years in a Chinese prisoner of war camp. He keeps himself alive. He kept other guys alive. His story takes over 50 years to come out.
Right. And the reason why is because, again, you said it right, anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism, resentment, also the history, too. Of,
the history.
You know, it got lost somewhere.
It did.
And it's an unbelievable story.
And unfortunately, there's probably many more stories, like you say, in the Naked City.
As a young man, I was always a Suffolk County kid. I lived out in Port Jefferson. Now I live out in Wading River, right?
Yeah.
I worked out in the Hamptons doing lawn sprinklers and driving a truck and the North Fork. But I was always in here.
Yeah.
And my father had a trucking business, and I do deliveries for Sears.
Yep.
Right? I must have been in every illegal apartment in Nassau County, right? You know, the Sears outlet centers.
Right.
I mean, those things were gold mines, right?
Yeah.
But the things would fly out of it. You had so many deliveries. And then I delivered treadmills for, he's no longer there, but he was on Shelter Rock Road and Northern Boulevard.
Mm.
Now, you deliver a treadmill from Sears, it was heavy.
Right, yeah.
You deliver this guy's treadmill, it was Trotters and Landises. They were like the Cadillacs of treadmills, right? It was 200 pounds the front of them weighed, right?
Wow.
So you broke your behind doing it, right?
Yes.
So I was delivering a treadmill, and I was like, I guess it was like Roslyn, Manhasset, maybe Herrick's coming up from that direction, right? And it was a townhouse community, big houses, split level. They didn't look like much from the front, but you had to drive. They had a back road,
right?
And it went down, and it was fairly wide. It was big places. So I'm putting together this treadmill. I'm like 19, 20 years old. You know, I've done some time in the service at that point. Always a history guy like yourself, right? Always reading something, right? You know, I got two things in the truck. I got the invoices for the store, and then my college books, right? So I'm sitting in traffic. I'm reading this stuff, right? So doing this delivery, I'm on my hands and knees. And I'm putting together the treadmill, and, you know, it's at 4 o'clock. You got to deal with the traffic, and, you know, you're doing deliveries until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, right? I look up, and there's this whole collage on the wall. And I say to the lady, I go, "Ma'am, did you have a family member that survived the Holocaust?" She goes, "My husband did." Mm-hmm. And he had a necessary job in Auschwitz. And they kept him alive, and they gave him currency to buy fresh drinking water to get. There must have been some sort of commissary.
Right.
And he had pictures from the liberation to being like in almost like a displaced person camp, then to Israel where he fought, right? And then he goes, "I just wanted a sense of normalcy." Yeah. Like with Bernie Furshman, right? His father survives the Holocaust.
Right.
He gets over to Israel. He fights over there as a young guy. I think him and two other soldiers shared one rifle, right?
Right.
And then what do you want? You want to come to the United States. You want some sort of sense of normalcy, right?
Right.
So now I'm looking at all this stuff, and this was before cell phones, right? And I would have asked her, "Can I take a picture of this?" You know?
Right.
But no phones, this and that. And she goes, "Yeah, my husband doesn't talk about it that much." But, and I'm looking at it, it was like a little chip, almost like a penny with this writing on it, right? Okay. And I go, "I've never seen anything like that." But so many things about the Holocaust doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So now, the next day, I'm actually taking a class, Holocaust, in college. I say the story to the class like I'm saying it to you. The professor says to me, there was no such thing as currency in Auschwitz.
Bullshit.
So now I look at him and I go, listen,
It was.
I know what I saw, right? And I was firm, but I was respectful, right? And I think I had my work jacket on. I just came from doing deliveries, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not like into messing around. I'm not BSing. I'm not messing around, right? So now we're outside. It was a 3-hour class, and we're outside taking a break. And a bunch of the people came up. They're like, you really saw this? I said, I really saw that. Now fast forward it. That's the early 1990s. A couple of weeks ago, I'm in here doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So Bernie Fershpan, he gets me all these artifacts for the museum.
Right.
2 bronze medals from the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which we're going to put Jesse Owens
Right.
and Marty Glickman next to him.
Yeah.
Right? Gets me a German bayonet, a German death card in terms of a soldier that got killed over there.
Right.
And then he gets me currency from Sachsenhausen concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just unbelievable. And these are local stories. That's the thing.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and at one time, if you think about it, 20, 30 years ago, where these survivors were old, but they were around though,
Right.
right? You got to
Yeah.
think that this is one of the highest, probably amount of survivors
In New York.
in New York, and if not the world in some
Yeah.
cases, right?
Yep.
So,
Yes.
you know, and these things, they continue to drive you though, right? They really do, right?
The more I do, the more I see, the more I want to do. Because when I meet, I'll give a name. A person her name is Renee. I listen to her, and she's a person that comes here quite a bit from what I've heard. And I listen to her story again, and I'll speak to someone else who was in the JWV. They took her in. She was British. She was on the part of the Kindertransport, and she became a nurse. And the idea is when what got me kind of agitated.
So she got saved by the Kindertransport then?
Yep.
Wow.
And she was a nurse there, actually. She was older than the other kids, from what I heard. And she died like 99, 100. And I'll never forget, I made it to her funeral. I had to go there. I just had to. And I got there, and I ended up doing the sermon because half the people didn't come to see her. And that wanted me to work more than ever before because you can't forget her.
Yeah.
And there's many more, even on the other end, where again...
In your neighborhood, in Belmore, right?
Yep.
A lot of Jewish families in Belmore?
Yes, there are, yeah.
Did you know of any survivors that were literally like your neighbors or anything like that?
In Belmore, no. But I ended up, when I go to the JCC, I'll find them. Or I'll go somewhere else, or you bump into them in the street.
Wow.
You don't know. Or, yes, true is, down the block from me, this woman, Marilyn, she works with the Holocaust. And many years, she even wrote a book on it. And again, everybody says it didn't happen. It happened. And it keeps happening. And it's scary that if I saw something like that in Dachau, and it just brings back memories. And then I started talking to someone else that his name was Rabbi Rosenbaum, and Jay Rosenbaum, and he was doing a lot of work over in Auschwitz, all these places. He just passed away this year, and he was going to help us as the Jewish war veterans, but we didn't get the help, and we're supposed to get it somewhere.
Now, this is a little bit of a tough question because you were such a young guy.
Yeah.
Were you glad that you went to Dachau?
I would say yes, because I got to see it firsthand.
And that was probably the oldest camp that they had,
Yes.
right? I think that was open right around at the same time
Right.
that FDR became president in 1933,
Yes,
because that's when Hitler
Right.
took over, right?
And like I said, the more I see today, the more I want to do, because again, you can't forget these people. And I'm hoping that, like they're teaching in schools, which we're trying to do through my Truth and Humanity.
Sure.
we're trying to get this. We are going to get it taught in schools, but we need the money.
Yeah.
And we're doing the job of 6, 7 people.
You know what the problem is with teaching is that so much is expected of you
Right.
through the state regents.
Right.
I more or less got done with the Civil War the other day, and I told the kids, I'm like, you're going to possibly at a 4-year school take a class on the Civil War.
Yeah.
I said, I could teach you the Civil War from September to June.
Right.
And make maybe a dent in it.
That's
know.
Yep.
It's amount of timing. Years ago, they used to have classes called Man's Humanity to Man, the Holocaust, genocide and warfare. They got to bring those classes back.
They
really do.
It's right what you just said, because again, I'm just going to go back to something else where it may take even more than 2 minutes. Is the reason why 1896 on March 15th, 1896, these guys got together
with the Jewish War,
the Hebrew Association, and started this. And the reason they started this because, quote, what's his name? Mark Twain said, Jews never served. And then they found out besides that, he was Jewish himself. Yeah. That's the scary part. And
kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit.
Yeah, right. And he did. And what happened was they started this organization, and these guys weren't youngsters. And from 1896 to 1906, they started dying out. They were already in their 60s and 70s.
You know, an interesting thing, Ulysses S. Grant, great general.
Right.
I consider him
that's
one of the greatest generals ever.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. But he was so concerned about the cotton trade.
Right.
Coming from the South, going up north, and then money coming back to the Confederacy. He ended up really sticking his foot in his mouth.
Right, he did.
Because he made that law, or not the law, the military regulation.
Right.
And then Lincoln came out and said, I think it was Jewish peddlers or something like that, merchants. And Lincoln goes, we have a lot of Jewish American veterans that are fighting here, you know. You got to remember the large-scale immigration from 1820 to 1860, bringing people in, you know.
From Russia.
From all over the place, you know. And, you know, Grant rescinded the order. But Lincoln came out and said, this can't keep on going because these men are in our uniforms here, you know. So it's an interesting, you know, thing. And the way you said it with the Jewish war veterans and, you know, it's credo and it's foundations. Mel Cohen, same thing, same thing. It's just such a sense of pride is that the oldest?
It is the second oldest group, from what I was told. It was the women, the Civil War, women, daughters of Civil War.
And I think they called it Decoration Day or something like that, right?
And another thing too is, from what I was told about another story, was when they were burying Grant, the Jews helped bury him at Grant's tomb.
Yeah.
And half the people don't even know where Grant's tomb is.
Yeah.
In Manhattan.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
But all right, Gary, listen, thank you very much for coming down.
You're welcome.
This man right here, okay, he keeps on going. The fire is inside of him always to present local and national history and ensure that it's not forgotten. So keep your eyes open on maybe on the internet or on the Fog of War and Humanity or newspapers, because he's always kind of in the background and he's always pushing to ensure that we don't forget about these important dates, history, situations, you know, and it's something that's extremely, extremely important. Thank you for joining us today here on hmTV on the Fog of War and Humanity. I'm your host, Rich Acritelli, and we hope to see you again.